Hey, so let's run through this example of how you can use Google Gemini to actually visualize and understand data that you have from this 150 person conference that you just had, understanding who's attending, what's the makeup, and what are some ways that you can kind of use this data as well. As someone who's not experienced, who say doesn't know how to use Excel at all, hasn't touched the platform or Google Sheets, and is really just asked to dive in and has to figure it out. So this is really coming from that new event planner perspective, or as an experienced event planner, being able to share this video with someone who's new on your team and know that they can run with it, and it should take them 5 minutes to do this rather than fumble around for an hour or two. So to jump in, I have a jumble of data, but I'm sure you have it in an Excel or CSV. I can just hit this Google Gemini button up here at the top, Ask Gemini, and I'm just going to start by going to Ask Gemini, pasting in the data. So I have all of this fake demo data. Don't worry, it's not real emails, people, etc. And I'm just going to ask it from here, please create a table with this registration data in the main tab. So here it's going to start working. It's going to look at all this data, and then from there it's actually going to help me generate an initial table that actually looks pretty nice. So rather than having to go in and paste it in and then add in all of the different formatting stuff, it can save you a few seconds, not a ton of time, but just really being able to get that into the sheet, having it look nice, having it be formatted well, and somewhat professional. So if you're new to the events industry, you haven't worked around with it much, you don't have a standardized layout, this can really help. Okay, great. So we have it added in here. Perfect. So we have all the different names. We have about 130 people who ended up showing up. And then we can just scroll down and hit here, insert. Great, and I found that it's pretty accurate. I'm not sure how much data it can hold. So once again, this is 150 or 130, so it's relatively small scale. There aren't a ton of different categories, but would love to hear from you guys on how much success you have really pushing the boundaries. If you're doing a 2,000, 3,000, a large scale conference where you have a lot of different attendees, but also a lot of fields for each attendee. So let's say that senior leadership or someone on my team as the new employee has asked me to get a better breakdown and really help them understand who actually attended this event. So let me ask Gemini, analyze this registration data, provide a breakdown of registrants by industry, company size, and job title, seniority. Great, so we can start by that. And then from here, it's now actually going to work on creating some charts for us. So as you can see, it's generating, so it's just a sec. Perfect. So we can already see after about 15-20 seconds of generation, it's created all these different tables for us. So we have registrations breakdown by industry, registration breakdown by company size, and registration breakdown by job title, seniority. Let me go into the insert button so we can move this over, and great. So we have this one. We can see financial services, healthcare, manufacturing, media and entertainment, professional services, retail, technology. And we can even expand this out just to see all of that. Great, so we can see most people here are technology. And let's go into the other one. So let's hit insert and then insert. So it's going to create completely new tabs for all these different sections. So we can look at breakdown by company size. Okay, startups are by far the smallest amount, and then it's enterprises and SMBs for the rest of the attendees. And then by seniority, as we can see, there's no one who's associate / entry level. A lot of managing / senior leads, and executive directors are a smaller amount. But it's primarily going to be managers and executives, which is a great sign, and once again, it means that the attendees are going to be higher value than, say, if they're entry-level employees. So that's a great kind of starting point for just understanding the high level of the data, but let's say we want to dive in a little bit deeper and understand the relationships between some of these different sectors. Let's say we want to do that by creating a new pivot table. So we can also create pivot tables for us. We can say, please create a pivot table showing the relationship between company size and industry. So now we can once again have it generate for us and give it kind of 10 to 15 seconds, but it'll now be able to break down some of these nuances. Okay, so we can see it here, and I found that sometimes this kind of bugs out. So this hasn't been perfect. As we can see, it sometimes takes a few prompts to get it right. So playing around with it, I actually just found that in order to create the pivot table, you have to be on this specific sheet. So for example, if you're going to be on one of the charts, it's going to create that kind of dummy pivot table that we saw before. But if you're on the actual data set sheet, now we can see we have our pivot table already created here. So it did all the formulas for us. Now we can clearly see, okay, wow, looking at technology, we have 30 here, but almost half of them are actually startups. And there's more technology startups than any other attending. So if we're, for example, for next year, we're seeing, okay, a large group of our attendees are technology startups when we're trying to create programming, trying to create other different things. Maybe we should really be focusing that towards the technology startups who are attending versus, say, having a panel or session on something more professional services or media entertainment focused. Maybe we should be doubling down on technology because we already see so much interest there. Let's say that another thing that the executive that you're working with asks for is they want a sponsorship pitch deck. And in their pitch deck, they want to really be able to understand who they need to be going after and being able to present who's coming to the event. So we can even ask Gemini, please write me a 3-sentence summary of the data we have to illustrate a picture to sponsors of who's attending our event. So it can even do kind of some of this initial analysis for you as well. And the goal here isn't to have it just look at the data and write it up for you. The real kind of idea here is to use it as that first draft, so you can go back with the second pair of eyes and really understand it. Like, it's still up to you or the junior person on your team to be able to go through and look at all of these charts, look at all of the data. But rather than them having to write out the first draft, you can have Gemini write that first draft and then you double check it. And we can look at it here. Okay, so the registration data shows we have secured a diverse audience with strong representation across 7 major sectors, led by technology. Attendees are primarily high-value professionals, heavily represented by executive/director and manager/senior lead job titles, indicating strategic decision-maker engagement. So great, that's exactly what we were talking about. Furthermore, our audience is drawn equally from established enterprise and SMB businesses, alongside a significant number of startup companies, reflecting a broad market appeal for event content. Okay, great. So that's generally what we've seen from the data. So we can see that it's really breaking down some of the nuances that I already talked about. But once again, this is for people who've never used Excel before, don't know how to do a single formula, and are really using it or Google Sheets for the first time. I think this can be a great tool. And if you're an experienced event planner, it might not be revolutionary, but for that person on your team who went to college or got their associates and didn't necessarily take the most in-depth Excel class or don't remember a lot of it, this is a great way for them to jump into it without having to go and watch 2 hours of YouTube videos or have you fix it for them afterwards if they're handing it off to you. So I hope this is helpful. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts and how you're able to test this out. Would love to hear what scale this works at and if it really works at a larger scale with real data, etc.